Got it. Okay, got two people here.
Mhm.
How do I get to the screen share?
Yes.
Uh,
Oh, just click on the green instead. Yeah, and then it gives you.
Got it.
Mhm.
Okay, yes,
Okay, and if you have more questions, I'm just in the other room.
okay. Where is, let me see. That's that, and then where is my Quicken? I'm just not seeing it, so I'm looking. Oh, there it is. Okay, so. All right, Zay, can you hear me? I think so, but I don't know.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, good, thank you. You can get the lights if you want. Yeah. Yeah, that's fine with me.
I think it's more from the lights. Oh, that's too much.
Okay,
I think it's just-
and Zay, you can see this, you can see the Quicken here?
Yes, I can.
Okay, all right. We're gonna wait about a minute or two, and then if anybody else joins us. Fantastic.
All right, good.
And I will attempt to do this as best as I can. And- All right. Here's a handout for you, and then
I want paper.
if you want a handout later, Zay, I can email this to you.
Okay, that'll be perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, I was sort of. Yeah.
All right, we'll give it another minute.
Family reunion's gonna be in Las Vegas next.
It is a different time zone. Not a big fan of Vegas, but I think Yvette's gonna come, so we'll give her another 30 seconds. And then we'll start. So Zay, are you a new agent?
Yes, I am.
Okay, have you sold anything yet?
No, I literally just had my orientation last Thursday.
Okay. And have you had any closings this year, Susan? You have?
Yeah, I got it down.
Okay, fantastic. All right. Just one more minute. All right. All right. Well, I don't know if they're all coming together, but we're going to start. So this class is really just on kind of understanding your business from a financial standpoint and the things you should either be doing or be prepared to do, depending on where you are. If you're brand new and you haven't sold anything, this is more going to be for down the road to a certain extent. But I will tell you this, you can never start setting up your finance and your money systems too soon, because the worst thing happens is you make money and then you go, oh, I should have done that. So the first thing I'm going to tell you is you need to set up a business checking account. Do you have a business checking account, Susan? Do you have a business checking account, Zay?
No, I do not.
There you go. So we've already had value in this class. So, you know, you want to go to your bank and tell them, you know, you're starting as a real estate agent and you just want to set up a separate business checking account, right? You can put $10 in it just to have an account. And we'll talk more about, you know, just kind of like certain things. But if you bank with any of the major banks, I bank with Bank of America, you know, you can set it up, you can have it all in the same login when you log into your online checking with your mobile app. So, you know, I could deposit checks directly into my business account, transfer money from business to personal, personal to business. But the first thing you want to make sure you do is you're not, you know, you want to start establishing what your business revenue is, and then you want to pay your bills out of that, right? So in the beginning, or you should all have done some sort of economic model for your year, which, you know, which is kind of how you lay out how many deals I want to do, how much revenue, you know, what am I going to make and how am I going to get there? How many listings, how many sales do I need? And then also within that should be your expenses, your budget. What are you going to spend on your business, right? You have certain things you can't avoid, like the monthly office bill and your super key and your board dues and whatever it is. So all of those expenses that are going to be, you're going to incur, you should put into a budget. And then you have the things you're going to spend discretionary, training, classes, marketing, which is the biggest one, and things of that nature. And determine, you know, well, if I make X number of dollars and I have to spend Y number of dollars, this is what I'm left with, right? Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. And then whatever that monthly bill is that you have to cover every month, you should have a minimum goal of putting 3 months into your business checking account as a savings tool. Simply meaning you may have a month that you don't have any sales, right? Well, you still got to pay your bills. So if you have a minimum of 3 months, 3 to 6 of whatever that is, we'll call it $1,000 a month. You keep that money in that account so that you don't have to worry about paying bills in the months that you aren't making any money. This is how what we call managing cash flow. Okay. So when I get a check, when I get a commission check, this is what happens. The check comes in. I take 30% off the top and put it away for taxes. And I take another percentage or another number and I put it to the side for my monthly expenses. And I have an account for it. And I just watch that. In some accounts, I don't have to dig into it, so I don't have to put money into it every month. On months I don't make any money and I draw down that account, I want to make sure I replenish it when I do get paid, right? And then what's left is what I get. Okay, I get what's left. Not, you don't get paid first, you get paid last. Okay, make sense? I also recommend that you get a business credit card. Okay. It'll be a lot easier if you just do your expenses through that card.
You have a favorite one?
No. You can get it, you know, if you bank at Bank of America, you can go and you open a business checking, you can ask them if they will approve you for a business credit card. Depending on your business history, balances and everything, you know, your limit will be set at whatever it is, but you want to use that card as often as possible for your business stuff. So you have the Keller Williams office charge that card. You run all your marketing through that card. You have supercharged that card, right? Not only does it keep things simple and separate, but all your expenses are on your statement.
And you like that better than a debit card?
Do not use a debit card. I'll tell you why you don't use a debit card. Debit card provides you with zero protection. Okay, you buy something, I don't know what it is. What you buy something and it turns out to not be good, you have zero protection on a debit card.
You can't.
That money is gone. It's like cash. It's not that you can't track it. Is if you have to dispute it, there's no dispute. Yeah, no, don't use a debit card. Well, hello there. Good. So, I don't recommend using a debit card. Get a business credit card. And if you only have a low limit on it, well, then build your credit and expand the limit. If you need to use a different card for something, then do it. But it's easier to track if everything is under one card, right? It's also easier going to be to manage it down the road. Okay. So get a business checking account, get a business credit card. Now, then the question becomes, how is your business set up? By default, we're all contractors. By default, if you do nothing, you're what's called a sole proprietor. Simply means you're an individual business person. You don't need a license. You don't need to register, right? You're Zay Harris, Barry Wolford, real estate agent. Now, in the beginning, when you're not making much money, that's okay. Okay. It's the simplest, it's the least expensive, but it's also the least valuable way to run a business. But if you're not making a lot of money, it's not worth doing anything else at the moment. However, if you plan on being in this business and you plan on making 50, 60, 70 plus $1,000 a year, then you should plan ahead. So I recommend that you establish a corporation. You incorporate. Even if you don't use it, go ahead and do it. It's 50 or $100. And you go to the Georgia Secretary of State website and you click on corporations and you go through the process, and you can call it whatever you want to call it. You can call it Barry Wolford Real Estate Inc., or you can call it, Bubbles, whatever you want to call it. And once you establish that corporation, it's $50 a year to renew that entity.
It's cheaper than an LLC.
Well, okay, so we'll talk about LLC in a second. So when you incorporate, you become a corporation. You can choose, now there are different forms of a corporation. An LLC is one form, okay? An LLC gives you a little bit of liability coverage, not a lot, but it doesn't give you any tax benefit. You need to elect an S corporate status. Now, what you have to do is, it's been a long time since I've done this, so don't take me at exactly, but I believe you can go to the Secretary of State site, create a corporation, and then you have to wait 30 days. And after 30 days, you can elect the S Corp status. And we'll talk more about what S Corp does. You can be an LLC and an S Corp. So you can create an LLC and then make that an S Corp as well.
And that's the way to do it, or that's just.
Yeah, LLC is up to you. Okay, you can talk to an attorney. You can be right, but understand this: an LLC does not bring any tax benefits. The S corporation status does. So that's what you want to make sure you are. If you want to incorporate as an LLC, I am not an LLC. I'm just a corporation, right? It may give you some limited liability protection. Honestly, it's not going to do much, right? I mean, so I would talk to whoever does your taxes, or we'll talk about that. But whatever corporate form you pick, you want to get the S corporation, because the S corporation is what's going to give you the tax benefits. Now, if in your first year or whatever year you're in, you're making $30,000, and we're always talking about net here, right? After expenses. An S Corp really isn't going to give you a lot of benefit, because it's just not a lot of money there to save. And if you file through as an S Corp, you'll pay, it's more expensive to be an S Corp. Now, it's not dramatically, but you have to do a separate tax return. You have certain filings you have to do. So it only makes sense to start using that when you're up into this $60,000, $70,000 range. But you can always create one and just have it parked on the side. So, make sense? Zay? Okay. So let me explain again. before I was a real estate agent, I was in another industry, but I had an S corp for some other stuff. And I didn't really use it, but I just paid $50 a year. And then I became a real estate, and it just sat, right, as an active company with nothing attached to it. And then I became a real estate agent and I started doing better. And then I decided I'm going to use the corporation to start taking advantage. Now, when you do that, you have to make sure that the Keller Williams pays all your commission to the S corp. So you would go to the MCA and you would say, I'd like you to now be using my S corp. You give her the tax ID number, and all your checks will now get made out to that company, right? And they should bill that company, right? Or if they put it on a credit card, that's the credit card is the company, okay? Because the only way you can take advantage of the corporation is if the corporation makes money. Okay, so the money has to come into that funnel. We'll talk about this handout I have here in a sec. All right. So let's switch over to that handout. Zay, I'm going to put this on the screen so you can see it.
All right.
All right. So this is what I call the commission waterfall. Hold on, I gotta get that to disappear. Okay. So the commission waterfall, there's two sides. There's the left side and the right side, one with the S corp, one without. So let's follow on the right side, the no corporation, which is what you are by default when you start. You make $100,000 gross commission, right? Which is paid to my name, period, Barry Wolford. I have $20,000 in expenses. So I've got an $80,000 profit in my business. Now, because you are your own business, okay, you pay yourself, that's called payroll. 100% of your profit is considered salary. And you have to pay your payroll taxes. Now, if you ever had a job, you know, on your check, you have those little friends, FICA and, you know, and Social Security and all that. Well, when you're employed, your employer pays half of those taxes and you pay half of those taxes. It's roughly 15, I think it's 15.6%, but it's roughly 15%. And you would pay normally 7.5% and they would pay 7.5%. But guess what? You're your own employer. So you have to pay all 15%. So that $80,000 profit becomes an $80,000 salary. You have to pay, well, 15% of that, which is $12,000 in payroll tax. That gets paid to the Georgia Department of Labor, to the Georgia Department of Revenue, and to the IRS for Social Security, for FICA, for all that stuff. And you pay a little bit of unemployment. And so if you did that, you would walk away at the end of the year with $68,000, which would now be subject to whatever your income tax is. Very simple, right? Now let's look at the left side. Same money, same expense, same profit, but I'm an S corporation. As a corporation, corporations distribute money two ways, payroll and dividends. Okay? You're 100% stockholder in your corporation, even if there's one share of stock. You own it all. You don't have to declare $80,000 as your salary. You can say 40% of my profit is $1,000. You have to pay 15% on it, right? On the payroll tax, but you're paying 15% on 32, which is $48,000. $4,800. Thank you.
Okay, good.
Thank you. Which leaves you a net there of $27,200 payroll. This is what your W-2 represents. But we still have $48,000 in dividends. Well, dividends are not subject to payroll tax. So they come straight down, and your net income is the sum of these two, or $72,200. You have just saved yourself $7,200 for the same money.
No, I don't.
Okay, so let's go through it one more time. Are you an S corp?
No, I'm LLC.
Okay, but if you haven't elected the S corp, you're over here. You made $80,000,
Mhm.
right? When you do your taxes, you're going to submit 15% of that payroll, $12,000 to the government for payroll taxes, and you're going to have a net before your regular taxes of $68,000. Right? And whatever tax bracket you're in, you pay that, and that's what you get to keep. Over here, though, we're able to reduce the amount that's being taxed because we're a company. And a company can pay its employees and its owners through payroll and dividends. So the payroll is a lot less. You're only paying $32,000 as salary. So the tax on that 32, instead of it being 12 from here, is only 4,800 because the number is so much lower.
Mhm.
And the rest of this money doesn't get subject to the payroll tax because it's not payroll. It comes to you as a dividend,
Mhm.
which is what a corporation can do at the end of the year. So that means the end of the year, you've gotten 48,000 in dividends and you netted 27,200 from your payroll. That adds up to $75,200 that you received. And then you pay your income tax. Over here, you only got $68,000 because you paid so much more payroll tax. So the difference between 68 and 75 too is $7,200. You've put $7,200 more before income tax into your pocket by running your business as a corporation. Now, the point simply here is, and you can talk to your CPA. Some CPAs are more aggressive and they say, well, you can do 30% salary, right? You can't make $100,000 and pay yourself $5,000 salary. The government's going to say that's not real. But 30, 40, 50%, right? Some are conservative, might say do 50%. It's all up to you. Okay.
But it's a lot of, it's less than, pay taxes on it.
Well, it's the point here is you're not paying $7,200 more in tax. You're saving that. Now, if you go up to $200,000, these numbers double, right? The more money you make, the better it is. Also, now you have to, when you are an S corporation and you do this, you have to file quarterly to payroll, right? And that's something a CPA can do for you, or you can learn to do. So that's why I say it's a little bit more labor intensive, right? But every quarter, you tell the government how much money you made, how much commission you took in, you take out whatever your expenses are, you have a net profit, and you run your scenario and you say, okay, I made $10,000 net profit this quarter. I'm going to take 40% of salary, that's $4,000. I'm going to pay payroll tax on the $4,000, right? And the other $6,000 is dividend, and you don't do anything with that until the end of the year. And you'd send in your tax on the $4,000, which is roughly $600. There's forms to fill out, and you mail that in, and you pay quarterly. Now, sometimes the beautiful thing about this is you have to submit the forms every quarter, but you don't necessarily have to declare all the revenue every quarter. So let's say you go, this was a really, even though I made money, I have a big expense. So I'm not gonna pay any tax second quarter. Well, you don't do that. You just know you're gonna have to make it up in the third and the fourth quarters. Because you got to pay the tax. But you do have the ability to kind of mess with it a little bit. Now, again, I'm not a CPA, I'm not an accountant, this is not tax advice, right? Talk to people, but I'm telling you, I can call my guy, or I can say to him, he'll say, you owe $5,000 in taxes this quarter. And I'll go, I'm only going to pay $3,000, right? I need some extra money. And he'll go, great, I'll send in $3,000. And now I know next quarter, I got to put an extra $2,000 into the pot, or I'll put $1,000 in the third quarter and $1,000 extra in the fourth quarter, right? You have some flexibility there to do this. You can play with it to a certain extent. right?
But at the end of the period, you have to pay exactly.
Well, you have to pay what you declare. This 40% is a number you're picking.
Okay.
So the government's going to say, well, if you made 100 and you are being paid $40,000, then at the end of the year, you'll either owe money or you'll get money back. Now, you can't do nothing because if you underreport, there are penalties. And that's where your advisor, your tax advisor will help you. But the purpose of this conversation is simply to show you that when you start making some money, it's of no benefit to not be incorporated. The cost to incorporate, an extra tax return is $500 to $1,000 a year. You pay $50 for the corporate renewal. And let's say you pay $100 a quarter for the tax returns to be filed, right? The payrolls. It's $1,500. So you made $7,200 more. It cost you $1,500. You're still $6,000 plus in it. And I used to do them myself. I don't do them myself anymore, but it's not complicated once you know what you're doing. But you hire somebody, right? You need a good CPA anyway. And this is the benefit of that. Now, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, this isn't a class on taxes, but this is a class on if you are running a business, you need to run it like a business if you want to make money. Now, if you want to keep on the other side and do this and pay more money to the government, you're welcome to do that, right? They'll take it. Okay, this is clean and simple and very little effort to do this, but you're talking about $7,000, $8,000, $10,000, $15,000 if you make decent money. And I don't see any reason to give that up. Right? Okay. Now let's talk about the other thing. Who has a profit and loss statement? Do you have a P&L? You do? So if I asked you to show me your 2022 P&L, you could do that?
Yeah.
Where is it?
Somewhere.
Somewhere. Do you have a profit and loss statement?
Yeah, somewhere.
I don't exactly know that I can get my hands on it, but.
Okay, well, having one and not knowing where it is not very helpful, okay?
No, I have in my.
Okay,
but I don't know.
so who updates it every whatever?
Every year?
Well, if you only update it every year, that's really kind of like a budget forecast. What do you do every month when you spend money? Do you look and say, well, I said I was only spending $100 on postage this year, but I just did a mailing and I spent $400. You don't do that. Okay, so you're not really tracking profit and loss. All right, so let's talk about Quicken. Now, I've always talked about, this is the software I use. You can find anything you want. There's online stuff. There's online Quicken. I use the application on my computer. But it's very simple. Now people say, what about QuickBooks? QuickBooks is way more sophisticated than what we need. We don't do massive payroll. You're not managing inventory. You don't need to do certain things.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood here.
Yes,
You use
Quicken, Quicken,
not QuickBooks.
right, Quicken, right here.
QuickBooks you-
Quicken, I use Quicken Deluxe. This is the Mac version. It's $60 a year. It's a great little program. Okay. Let's see here. Let's. Okay. So I took an old budget of mine and just messed with it, okay? So every time I get a commission, it goes in, right? This is your checkbook. This is your ledger, right? So every time a check comes in, right, we track our income. GCI, is it listing? Is it sales? Is it referral? Is it rental? Whatever. How much do we get? How much did I pay out for whatever else is on that DA, that check? So Roswell Cares was the charity. This was our contract to close person, okay? FMLS fees, how much we owe the office, right? And then the net check I got is $12,384. That's my deposit. That should show up on my bank statement. Exactly that. Then I do a little move. I say move to my holding account, right? That's where I put money. So here I took $3,000. In this case, it was right about 25%. And I moved it to my holding account. That's for taxes. That's for expenses. That's for whatever it is. Okay, we got another commission. We do another hold. You see what I'm saying? Then at the end of the month or any point that month, we go, okay, well, we got to get paid. So I disperse money from the account. So I make a payment, a check to whomever, you know, in this case, it was for $7,000. And I send that money out of my business account, and that comes to me as a distribution, right? That's payroll. Okay. And again, we just go through this. Now, looking for some other examples here. You know, photographer, right? We write them a check. It goes in here. Photographer, showing agent. We had somebody go out and take a lockbox off. I actually had to saw it off. Whatever our expenses are, right? Transaction coordinator, showing agent, bank charges, right? I had to buy new checks. I had to get more checks, $20. All this gets calculated in here. Now,
Do you do that every month?
I do this every month. So here's what I do, because you can set this up online. All this comes down from my bank automatically. I do all the revenue. So whenever we get paid, part of my process of depositing the check is going in here and putting it in. You know, and just making sure all the accounts are filled in correctly. I know how much it, because I want to know at the end of the month on July 31st, you know, we have $63,000 in the account here, or whatever the number is, right? Okay, well, we need to have 10,000 in the bank for our payment, our 3-month bills or whatever. So how, you know, and again, this isn't exact, but you know, my holding account here has $800. So I got to move $10,000 over there. Then I'm like, all right, what else do we have coming up? Right. So if I knew we were going to family reunion or mega and we were going to spend $5,000 for that, I might take another 5, set it aside, right? Whatever that number comes down to. And then I start doing distributions. I start paying myself. Okay. And when I do a distribution, it just goes to my other bank account. Now I have to track that in the other bank account, and I will do a payroll spreadsheet for my CPA so that we know what we're paying taxes on, okay, as an example. But if you use Quicken, and then we have the credit card, which is tied, right? So every time we make a charge, and I update this, and I've created all of these accounts, okay? So just as an example, all of these accounts are our business accounts, right? So if it's lead generation, was it advertising? If it was advertising, it's a sub thing, right? You don't have to get this detailed if you don't want, or you may not have this much. Is it direct mail? Do we postage? Is it internet lead gen? We have a bunch of them. Is it entertainment? Was it a meal? Was it entertainment? Software, we pay. Desk fees, license fees, communication fees, education, training, coaching, dues, car, lockbox, office expense. And again, your accountant will help you set these up, right? So everything, so the point is that when I get to, I'm getting somewhere. When I get to, where is that? Hang on. Don't make it easy to see this, I'll tell you that much. Hang on a second. Well, the point I was going to show you, and if here we are, sure, is all right. Hold on, I'm going to stop sharing. Oh, hi, we have new people. Hang on, people. So once man, that's annoying. Why is this not? Maybe. Should. There we go. Let's try this. Hey, here we go. Can you see that, guys? Online category summary to date?
Yes.
Yes? Does your screen show category summary to date report?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So when you put all that data into Quicken, then you generate a report. This is your P&L. And this is what you should be looking at regularly. Okay, and there's a lot of other reports you can look at in here, right? But, you know, this is from 2019, and this is just an example, right? But it shows me how much listing income did I make? How many, the sales, which are buyers, referral, rental. You should have in your economic model or your budget, these, you should have been projecting numbers. And then you want to start looking at this compared to those projections, right? You know, we don't do a lot of rentals. So, you know, if I didn't do any, it wouldn't be the end of the world. But, you know, I always expect that we're going to do a couple. But, you know, I want to look at this. And then how much commission did I pay to the office? I want to make sure that that kind of ties in with my cap, right? And then referral cost of sales. This was referrals I paid out for other types of things. FMLS fees, right? So this whole number, this 77.8, you know, that's one chunk of money. Then I look at how much did I pay for contract labor for, you know, the people that help us, photographers, coordinators, marketing people, runners, whatever, photos, other stuff, blah, 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 until I come down and I look at a net profit. Right? Now, this net profit is after I've paid myself my salary. So this is, I've been paid, my company has made $44,000 additionally. I can either distribute that, spend it, save it, you know, talk to my CPA how I want to, what I want to do with that, right? Because you're going to pay tax on it. Okay. Does this make sense? So the advantage of using the Quicken program, okay, is that all of this data that you put in, and again, I can tell you, we're a pretty busy team, and this does not take a huge amount of time. Okay. I mean, if you're doing 20 deals a year, you're going into it twice a month, 2 deals on average a month to put in your check, to put in your commission. You write a couple of checks, you go in there, you know, check 121 goes to Becky Young. I put in $30, boom, it's done, right? And then you download your credit card, make sure it's assigned correctly. It's a couple hours, you know, a month. I mean, I spend more time in it because I look at this more often. But for a general business, you know, this is 4 or 5 hours a month. It's an hour or 2 a week. And if you do this, then at the end of the year, you get this, right? And multiple years, you can start to look at this. How am I doing? You know, and I may look and go, you know, we really didn't spend a lot of money on photos that year. What were we doing? Were we taking the photos? That's not good use of our time. We need to make sure that we do that more. Or, you know, I'm just looking here. you know, whatever it is. Does that make sense, online people? Somebody say something.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. Questions? Who has questions? And I'm gonna try to, if you're online, just shout out your question because I can't tell who's what. I see there's 5 of you, 4 of you. Anybody? Anybody have questions in here? Who's lost?
If you're a new agent,
Yes.
like, should I wait until I've had a few transactions to?
Ah. So we talked about this in the beginning. So here's the secret to this whole class that I teach twice a year. And if you're a new agent, you should be thinking about this and you should be preparing this if you plan on being around. Okay, because what happens is you will get busy, you will make money, you will not have this in place, you will pay the more money in taxes, and you will go, I should have done this. So here's my advice. If you didn't hear this from the beginning, I'm going to review it very quickly. Today, this is what you would be doing. Going to your bank and setting up a business checking account. Getting a business credit card, if you can, on that account. Then you will run all your revenue, whatever, how, it doesn't matter if you're a corporation or an individual, all your checks go into that account, all your expenses come out of that account. And if you can get a credit card, all your charges go on that credit card. Okay? Any of the major banks, well, who's ever left, I don't know, Bank of America, Wells, whomever, should be able to do that for you. If they can't, move to another bank.
Can I put in a shameless plug for Ameris Bank? If you open business checking with Ameris, it's free.
There you go.
That helps. I mean,
Well, and usually if you have a personal checking account and you open a business and you tie them together or whatever it is, this should cost you nothing. This should, if anybody says, well, it's, you know, going to cost you to open, then you go, thanks, but no thanks. There's a bank on every corner, literally, in this town. Just go somewhere, make sure you have somebody that has an online mobile app. Okay, and, you know, you don't want to use an internet bank, right? We're not trying to make money here. We're trying to manage our finances. So I would say any of the major ones, but Ameris, whatever you want to do. I'm sure if you Googled best banks for small business, they would come up with something. But you want to set up a checking account. Now that, who asked me that question?
Jenny McAllister.
Hey, Jenny. If you haven't done any business yet, you still want to do this. If you plan on selling real estate, get this set up.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay.
So there, in my case, then I have
Yes.
This is the only thing that I do. Because I follow this, I follow my income tax as Adriana Aguilar.
Right. You're not as a corporation, right?
Exactly. So, is due to maintain my LLC and then, finally, you know, make, open up corporation and start working with that, or how is it?
So Adriana's question is kind of like, she has an LLC, but she's doing everything on her own. So when you get a check from the office, is it made out to your LLC? Then your LLC is doing nothing for you. So if you're making, and again, the LLC, I'm sorry, the S Corp, the tax deferment, the payroll benefits really kick in when you start making 50, 60, 70,000. So if you're making that level of commission, you should go to the office right after here and tell them, I want you to start paying my company my checks, not me. And then you should go on to the Secretary of State. That's where you create and file your corporation. And you should convert that to an S corporation, an LLC S subchapter S, which you can do. And if somebody's doing your taxes for you, I would talk to them. Okay. Having a corporation, the only way that it benefits you is that has to be funded. In other words, revenue has to flow through it. So the office has to pay the corporation. So you would give them what's called a W-9, which is basically the tax ID number form, right? It's the company's social security number. And they would now, next time you get a check, instead of paying out to Adriana, it'll pay out to, you know, Adriana LLC. That money will go into that checking account, that business checking. And then you're starting that process. If you're an S corp and you have to be elected S corp and have that set up as of the date that you pay, but even if it takes a month, still do it through the LLC. And then, you know, after that date happens, all those other checks will be able to take advantage of it. Okay. So yes, Jenny, you should start now. You should start if you haven't created a budget, you need to do that, and using your economic model. If you don't know how to do that, you should see me or Rusty or somebody, because you should start putting away 3 months worth of expenses into your business checking so that you can fund your expenses regardless of whether you make money. If you stop investing in your business because you have a slow month, you'll never get anywhere. Okay.
Okay. I have like a card that I just put everything on. Like I try to keep that one card,
Right.
real estate, but it's a personal.
That's
credit. It's
that's
not
fine from an
business.
accounting standpoint. I mean, it'll help keep things clean, but honestly, I would get a business credit card.
Okay. Thank you.
I don't think you have to, but if you by accident start to charge other things on that card, or things get commingled, if you remember that word, that's a bad word, right? That's in the licensing class, right? We don't want to have, we went out to dinner, that's not really a business. Then they can, you know, if you ever get audited, they can start going, well, what else on this isn't really real? Okay. So again, I wouldn't lose sleep over it if you're starting out, but I say the sooner you start doing this, the better, because 95% of agents don't do this at all. Get a business card, credit card, get a business checking account, put money away, go to the Secretary of State website, create a corporation. It's $50, maybe it's $100 now, I don't know. Even if you're not ready to use it, have it. All you have to do is pay the $50 annual fee until you start making money. Once you go, hey, you know, I'm making 50, 60, 70, whatever the number is, this might make sense. You can go to the office here and say, start paying my company. If you're making $20,000 gross and you're paying $5 in expenses, it's not going to be, there's no benefit to doing running it through an S. There's not enough money to save. I would recommend that you download Quicken, not QuickBooks, but Quicken, or use it online or something else, and start tracking all your expenses business-wise. I do it personally also, which wouldn't hurt you. But business-wise, I would start setting up my chart of accounts, which is this. Oops, sorry. You know, these are the different accounts. Revenue come in. If you want to split your listings and your buyers, you can do that and all this, or you can lump it into commission. The more detail you have, the more you can look back, right? The better you can look back. Because after a period of time, you're going to want to see, well, you know, I keep saying I want to do 75% listings, but 60% of my income keeps coming from buyers, right? So you got to see where your bread and butter is coming from. If you're going to hire a CPA, which I recommend at some point, make sure they understand real estate. Don't hire, you know, somebody who did your parents' taxes or a friend. If they're not used to working with small businesses, they should be working with other CPAs, insurance people, financial services people, not doing, not to say they can't have other customers, but if they're not used to working with small businesses and being aggressive, you know, they're not going to be of any value to you. Two other things, and then we'll open up for questions or we'll be done. One thing that I added, and I've been doing this 20 years, this is my 20th year. About 5 years ago, I took an umbrella liability policy. I would say that if you're in this business, I don't care if you're just starting, you should look into it. Because whether you drive people or don't drive people or whatever you do, you know, there's always the opportunity for somebody to want to sue you. And $1 million umbrella policy is like $250. No. And so if you have an LLC, that's LLC stands for Limited Liability Corporation. That does not prevent you from people from suing you, nor from them from winning, right? Yes, you can say, well, they can sue my corporation, but if you're the one that drove them into a wall, they're coming after you. So you should look if you're gonna be out there, my opinion is, I should have done this earlier. And you can go to any insurance or most insurance companies that you work with, and ask them to quote you on $1 million liability policy. I think that's a smart thing to do. Okay? The last thing I'm going to tell you is mileage. Now, the way that because we drive a lot, you have two ways of tracking your auto expenses. You can do real-time auto expenses. So I put $50 of gas in the tank, put new tires, new brakes, you can track that. But you have to account for your percentage of business versus personal use. Okay? The other way to do it is through mileage, which is much easier. And the government is giving us, I think, 60 cents a mile. Now, you still have to track business and personal, but all you have to do is track the mileage. And there's a great app called Mile IQ. Mile IQ. It's like $50 a year. I use it. It runs in the background. Every time I drive, it tracks my drive, where I go. And at the end of the day or the week or whenever, you just swipe left or right. Was it personal? Was it business? Right? So if you drive out to a listing presentation and drive back, that's business. If you go to the movies, that's personal, right? Unless you take a client to the movies, that's business. And this is an easy way to do that. And then you can get a report at the end of the month and it'll show you. And it says you drove 1,000 business miles at 60 cents a mile. That's $600 in expenses. And that's part of what goes into your P&L, right? Because that comes off of your gross commission. I highly recommend that you do that. Now, driving to the office and working here, like I come here every day, that's not a business expense. But for those of you that come here for training, maybe it is, I don't know, that's a CPA question, but I track it. Right? Does that make sense? Mile IQ. Don't get cheap and start going, I'll write it down, I'll keep receipts. Don't be stupid. Use the technology. You're not going to do it. I already know you're not going to do it. I already know you're not going to do half of what I told you to do. So do this. Well, you know, it's not only that you're multitasking. Here's what happens. Half of you are going to go, all right, this is great. As soon as I make some money, I'm going to do this. And I tell you, as soon as you make some money, you've already gotten behind. You have the time, set up your business correctly, right? Get into the habit. You should be doing a P&L, even if you only make $1,000. You should know what you're doing. You should get used to this. If you have never been in a business before, or you're new to running your own business, these are habits that you need to break. Adriana, how long have you been an agent? Almost 5 years. She's got an LLC, but she's not using it. So, not to pick on you, because you know I love you. My point is people will start doing this and then they'll stop. And you know, meanwhile, you're paying more money out the window for things as they get caught up. So we have a few minutes. Anybody have any questions?
The other app, it was called Quicken.
Yes, Quicken is a program. It's not an app for your phone. It's actually a computer program. Although maybe they have something for the phone, but this is a program you can buy for your PC or for your Mac. And just get the Quicken Deluxe version. Oh, let me see what I have again. I don't even know if I have.
Oh, they actually have it for your phone too.
Okay, I mean, I don't know that version. I don't know. This is what I have. You see it on here. I have Quicken Deluxe, right? Okay. You don't need the fancy version, right? I can do bill pay out of this. I can do my budgets. I can do reports. Sorry. You know, I can do all of this. I can download transactions. So, you know, I mean, there's lots of flexibility in this. And this is all you need. It's not complicated. It's just, you got to be methodical.
Okay.
So I think I pay $60 a year to, everything is now on a license, you know, you got to pay. But any other questions? I didn't hear from some of the other people out there, so.
I just call that bookkeeping.
It is bookkeeping.
Because I'm not good at looking at the big picture. I like to chunk it down. And then I know from month to month, you know, why did I spend more that month than this? month?
Right.
When I did spend the next month, you didn't do anything for me. I like to, I need the smaller.
Sure. I mean, bookkeeping sounds so boring, but
But I mean, it's, well, so we're tracking.
yes, that's why this is called finance, because finance sounds really important, right?
It sounds like big picture.
And it is, you know, however you call it, whether it's bookkeeping, accounting, admin, all right? If you don't know your numbers, you are not going to be effective in your business, right? Because you have to make this, you know, I'll take the last minute or two and say, you know, part of our philosophy at Keller Williams, if you haven't learned, is this red light, green light philosophy. You know, you try something, you stop and you evaluate it, right? Well, every 90 days, I'm looking at where I'm spending my marketing money. Did I, you know, I said I was going to spend $1,000 a month. That's $3,000 for the quarter. What's my ROI? Well, how do I know what my ROI is? My return on investment? Because I go into my P&L statement, right? And I look up the category and I go, spent 3, you know, and I generated 5 because it was tracked up there. Okay, I made some money. Do I want to keep doing this? That probably would be a green light, right? Spent 3, made 1. Ooh, that probably would be a red light. But if you go, I don't know, you know, I mean, I made $5,000 last quarter or last month or whatever. I don't know where it came from. I had a referral and a friend called and this, then you have no clue what you're doing. So I will encourage you. And if you're not good at like this, get somebody who is. Because there's no way you can grow this business and not know what you're doing. You will fail. People don't plan to fail, they fail to plan. How's that for that? All right, that's all I got. If you need questions or whatever, you're always welcome to come visit me here. I'm in the office 4 out of 5 days a week. But that's it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, so Alicia put a company here, tax in-house. I would encourage you, talk to 2 or 3. I've worked with 2 or 3 different CPAs. Make sure they have time for you, make sure they're patient, and make sure they know what they're doing. And if they say to you, oh, you don't need to be an S Corp, you're not making enough money, you go, yeah, I'm planning on it. And if they go, well, I don't have time for that, then find somebody else. Okay, because remember, you got to get ahead of this. All right, that's it.